Hey, I'm just testing the mics. Okay, just want to talk for a second to see if the mic is working. So I think everything is working right now. Just doing the obligatory, waiting for a few seconds to see if someone logs in to get some context of what's going on. As the title implies, I just wanted to talk briefly about animes and mangas, my favorite endings, my not so favorite endings, and whatnot, and what I hope to accomplish with my own ending when I finish Fred Peterson, the Mighty Warlord. Um, yeah, if you're going to be watching this on the replay later on, I only have one important question that I want to get out of the way, just to give the proper context because it is 11:15 a.m. right now. So after reading the leaks on the additional pages of Attack on Titan on the final manga volume, I was wondering if it was too early for this. Maybe not in Japan. What's the time in Japan right now? Give me one moment. Oh, it's midnight in Japan right now. It's 12:16 a.m. Hmm. That's okay. I'm just going to stick to this. Just a friendly reminder to, if you haven't done so just yet, hydrate. The weather is getting warmer right now, so go ahead and chug some water or any kind of fluids that will replenish you. I usually drink it from the bottle like this lately because ever since I had gotten sick, a bottle like this doesn't even last a day lately now. So I've been keeping my eye on staying hydrated, especially over the next few months. So yeah, that's the explanation for this. But anyway, that Attack on Titan ending. Wow, I knew there was going to be new pages and different panels because when the actual manga volume comes out, they usually add pages to kind of beef out the story a little more compared to when it comes out in its original format in the manga magazines and whatnot. So I knew there was going to be some changes going in. But wow, Attack on Titan. I know a lot of people didn't like the original ending that came out. I was kind of ambivalent towards it. I was of the mindset that there was going to be no way that I was going to have a happy ending or an overly happy ending. It was really heading towards that direction to begin with, so I didn't have huge expectations for it. I was just hoping that it would make that Isayama would make an ending that would make sense because there were so many plot threads that probably would have needed at least a chapter or quite a few pages to explain certain things. I know I'm sounding a little vague right now, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read the manga yet because the manga, the final chapter came out a month ago or something like that, or maybe a few weeks ago. And the final manga volume is coming out next month, I believe, or maybe a couple of weeks from now. It actually leaked in Japan already. Apparently, it's been out for a few days now. The final volume leaked online. I had no intentions of reading the additional pages until the actual manga came to the US, volume 34, I believe. And on YouTube, I just happened to see this YouTube anime and manga reviewer that I follow because I kind of like his point of view, and I mostly agree with a lot of the reviews that he does. We have kind of like similar thoughts, so I guess I like watching him for the confirmation bias in that sense. So he made a random video today and uploaded it talking about the additional pages that were added to the manga. Again, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. I'm just going to limit myself to what I personally thought of those pages because he actually showed the additional pages and the few panels that were changed along the way in the finale. And it was kind of unnecessary. To be honest, I felt it was unnecessary. And to me personally, it felt like it kind of took away from the original ending, to be honest. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the original 8 ending, but I didn't hate it either. I was somewhere in between. I was kind of like, well, it was an ending. It could have been better, but at least it wasn't worse. And I feel like Isayama probably saw some of the negativity online, especially in the US, from what I've heard from that reviewer. The finale was a little more accepted in Japan than it was compared to other parts of the world. And it almost feels like Isayama went online and read the comments or something because he went back and he almost went full Hideaki Anno end of Evangelion on it. All of a sudden, it's like interesting. Um, what is this going to mean for the anime? Like, what ending are they going to do? Are they going to just go more towards the original ending or do this new ending that added more stuff to it? And like I wrote on my post, I kind of wish the manga ended somewhere in the middle of the two endings. Like if it would have been a great ending, in my opinion, if it was somewhere in the middle of the road between those two endings. Wow, yes. Like, again, I feel like it's not too early for this right now. Just thinking about it, like I kind of understand people a little better now when End of Evangelion came out, when people were disappointed in the original ending of the anime series of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Hideaki Anno just pretty much did a middle finger to everyone when he did End of Evangelion. Like, you wanted a definitive ending? Well, here's your definitive ending, assholes. And it wasn't to that extent with Isayama and Attack on Titan with the newer pages, but it did feel like he wanted to like perhaps give a more definitive ending to it to maybe make some of the fans happy. But at the same time, he gave sort of closure to one aspect of the story, but then he raised a whole lot of new questions at the same time as well with that new ending with the additional pages that came out. And it's like, huh. Like a lot of people that have read it in Japan are speculating that that does open the door to perhaps do a sequel to the story. I don't know if Isayama would do that. Like there probably would be a lot of money to be made if he did do it. I kind of think he's done with the manga, with the story. Like he already knew how his story was going to end from the beginning, pretty much. He always said that. He was just kind of working his way into it. And sometimes it felt like he wrote himself into a corner sometimes in the whole transition of doing the story. But the original ending felt fine to me, to be honest. I've seen much worse endings, to be honest, on other mangas and other animes. You know, Neon Genesis Evangelion notwithstanding, that's a curious thing to me because my introduction to Evangelion actually was End of Evangelion. That was the very first Evangelion thing I ever watched. And it happened because one of my friends back in Puerto Rico, there were these small shops in malls that would sell bootleg VHS tapes of anime because back then in the 90s it wasn't very available to people to buy anime, especially certain types of anime like Suncoast and Sam Goodies would have would have some anime, but it would be like the more popular or trendy anime of the time, like Ghost in the Shell and Rurouni Kenshin, Beck, and all those things. So a lot like the deeper and darker stuff like Evangelion and Berserk wouldn't be available at that moment. And I believe those that shop in particular where they would sell the bootleg animes was called Dream Team or something like that. I know it was in Bayamon in Plaza del Sol, and they would sell like sports memorabilia and anime and manga collectibles as well that they would bring. I think those were bootlegs also. But back then, it wasn't like there was eBay or Amazon. Like buying bootlegs through Dream Team or any kind of small mom and pop shop was the best that you can get. Like, I don't know if they exist now, but there were entire video rental stores that was just bootleg copies of animes and Asian movies. Like literally the whole location was just rentals of bootlegs. And of course, like internet wasn't as big as it is now, so that was the only real way to get your anime fix. So my friend, I was with him that day. Actually, he bought End of Evangelion at Dream Team. I believe it was called the little shop, and he had only seen a handful of episodes of Evangelion, so he was not ready for End of Evangelion. And after he watched it and was traumatized for like a week, he actually lent it to me, and he was like, "You can watch it if you want. You can keep it if you want." I was not ready for this. And he also lent me the entire series of Berserk, which had just come out back then, also. So that was an interesting weekend for me, definitely. And I saw End of Evangelion, and I remember a lot of my friends that had watched the series, and the few forums that had popped up at the time were kind of mad at End of Evangelion. And when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like there's like so much happening. I don't know any of the characters, but the action and the animation is amazing. And of course, like I'm watching this with a fresh pair of eyes. I didn't see the whole series from beginning to end. I probably would have had a much different opinion of Evangelion if I hadn't watched End of Evangelion first and saw the series from beginning to end and then finished with End of Evangelion. But yeah, I wasn't too disappointed in the original ending of Evangelion either. Like seeing how psychological it was getting, it almost made sense that it would end like that. I can also understand why people were still mad at End of Evangelion when it came out originally, and from what I recall, Rebuild of Evangelion was going to be pretty much the ending that Anno wanted back then, but couldn't accomplish due to budget and the technology not being up to par back then compared to how it is now. So I'm very curious to see Rebuild of Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0. So that's a mouthful to say. I really can't wait to finally finish that 4 movie saga of this new version of Evangelion. Like someone already spoiled it for me anyway online, but I still want to see it when it comes out, either in the theaters here or when it comes out on Blu-ray or whatever. just to have like that closure with Evangelion, the end of all Evangelion, supposedly. So I'm looking forward to that. And also Berserk. That was actually the first anime I watched from beginning to end. Because again, the few animes I saw was on TV in Puerto Rico, so sometimes they didn't show the whole thing. Like they wouldn't air the entire story, or they would skip episodes for one reason or another. Like I started watching Rurouni Kenshin in Puerto Rico in Spanish, but I was never able to finish it. The same with Battle of the Planets, or G-Force, as it's known as well. They didn't have the whole entire series, which was maddening because I was very invested in that series, and they would show the whole anime up to a point, and then they would just start the cycle from the first episode again. It's like, and it ends in a cliffhanger too. So it's like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing the rest of the episodes? There has to be more episodes because of the way it ended. Like, it can't just end the way it did. Like, I remember and everything. It was I don't remember the names very well. I haven't seen Battle of the Planets in years. But it was the female character of the group. She sacrifices herself to save the rest of the team. There were like these man-eating plants that was released or something, and the leader of the group was all depressed because she apparently had died. And the scientist that helped provide the tech and the plans and whatever for the team was telling him that she may have survived because she had this special suiting on her, but he was having none of it. And, you know, it would end with him walking away, quitting the team. And then the very next episode would be the first episode again. It's like, what is this, Groundhog Day? I want to see how this plays out. I want to see if she survived, if the team is breaking up. Like, it was really a huge issue to 9-year old me to know what happened there, or like 12-year-old me. That was very traumatizing back then, not knowing what the hell happened to that team. I guess I can see it now. I believe it was on Hulu or something last time I checked. I should watch it. I watched it like a couple of years ago, maybe the first few episodes, but I got too busy doing other things, so I never got around to finishing it. But when my friend lent me Berserk, that was the first anime I actually was able to see the entire series. And of course, it was amazing. Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it because I've always, even when I was little, I've always been into the fantasy stuff. And at that age, when I started seeing it, I was already watching and reading more darker books and darker comics. So I was in love with Berserk. It was love at first sight when I watched that entire anime. I watched it pretty much in one sitting. You know, the life of a teenager, I guess. I just like started watching it in the afternoon, and I don't think I even slept that night. I just kind of watched through the whole thing because I had to keep watching it. And even though I felt disappointed that it ended and there wasn't more to it, like I knew that there was more story to it because of the manga definitely still was going out at that time and still going on today whenever the mangaka decides to do a chapter every year or every other year, which is kind of disappointing, but at least it's still going. Hopefully, he'll be able to finish it. Hopefully, it's not like a Game of Thrones situation where you stay waiting and waiting and waiting to see how things are going to play out, and it takes so much time that you're kind of like on the edge of the seat of like, I hope the creator survives long enough to actually finish the story and not have like their heirs or whatever take over and finish it for them, kind of like Lord of the Rings or something like that. That whole world that eventually fell into his son's hand, and he kept doing more stories to kind of flesh out the world more and whatnot. I hope it's not that kind of situation with either Berserk nor Game of Thrones. Another ending that that I was slightly disappointed in was Love Hina. Like again, that was another bootleg that I saw back in the day that my friend gave me. I loved the series. The ending was kind of meh. I realized that there was going to be a second season. I actually saw the first episode of the second season. That they only made that one episode, and I wish they would have kept going. I really would have liked to have seen the rest of the manga animated because the movies that were done after the series ended kind of diverges so much from the manga that's almost its own thing, and it just got boring to an extent. I hate to say it because I loved the series so much, but the movies were really boring to me. Even the final one where Kaoru and I don't I think was it Kaoru her name? I'm really blanking out on names today. I think I really do need that alcohol later on, or maybe more water. Hmm. I'll have more water. Ah, Naru Segawa. Yeah, it was just water that I needed. Naru Segawa. Naru, like when she finally confesses her feelings and they end up getting married in the final movie, it kind of didn't have the same impact that it had in the manga because so much was different, and Naru in the animes got progressively worse as a character. I really didn't like her by the end of all the movies and whatnot. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about Naru. Like I like I like her so much in the manga, and she's still temperamental and does these crazy things, but the anime version almost feels like she's cruel in a way and just like mean spirited without no real reason other than just to be mean spirited. And sometimes that was kind of grating when the movies when I came out and I watched those. By that time already anime was starting to become a little more mainstream, so it will start to become more available in Blockbuster and Video Avenue and whatnot. So at least I was able to watch it through that. But yeah, Love Hino, the anime was a bit of a disappointment in terms of endings. And Rurouni Kenshin, I haven't watched the third season. I can't bring myself to watch the third season. I've heard so many bad things about it because the entire third season was filler episodes. And I remember the filler episodes from season one, and they weren't great. They were not, they were the weakest episodes of season one. So imagine that, but an entire season of it, like 20 plus episodes or something like that. I have not been able to bring myself to watch it. It got so bad that it didn't even have an ending in Japan. They actually did the final episode of Rurouni Kenshin DVD exclusive. So it didn't even get a final episode when it aired in Japan TV. That is mind blowing. Rurouni Kenshin. And it was such a it reached such high levels of popularity when it was in the Kyoto story arc. It was one of the most popular animes at the time, one of the highest rated animes at the time. And it's just crazy how it just felt like that with fillers. I know what happens in the final episode because I read a review about it, but I haven't been able to bring myself to it because I kind of want to just leave my memories of the Kyoto story arc untouched and not keep going. I've read the whole comic, the whole manga. I was satisfied with the ending in the manga. They recently restarted the manga with a sequel because of the popularity of the live action movies. Unfortunately, well, depending from how your point of view is, because Shonen Jump USA, Viz Media in the US that distributes the Shonen Jump material here in the US, has stated that they're not going to bring over any Rurouni Kenshin material due to Nobuhiro Watsuki's things that happened a few years back that unfortunately he had copies of kid material. Like, I don't want to say flat out what it is because I don't want the video to get banned or taken down or something. But let's just say that Watsuki had videotapes of underage girls and such that was found in a raid in his home. Apparently, he had not thrown it away because the laws had changed in Japan fairly recent at that time about the legal age that performers could appear in those types of movies. So he still kind of hung on to those movies. Somebody apparently blew the whistle on him and they caught him with the tapes hidden in the house or whatever. And even though he went through trial in Japan because of it. He paid a huge fine. He did a whole apology. The manga was actually on hiatus when it all happened, so it almost got taken off completely in Japan as well. But after all that was cleared up and he paid his fine, he did his apologies. The series resumed on Shonen Jump, but the Viz publication decided to not bring it at all in the US, even though they continue in Japan and it's still going on right now. Like, they only bring like a figure every now and then, but the manga and story itself, at least for the time being, or unless a different distributor picks it up or something, there's not going to be any new Rurouni Kenshin mangas translated into English. Like, I have some of the volumes in Japanese because I am curious about the story and I'm trying my best to separate the art from the artist. And from what has been seen in Japan, he does seem to have changed a lot and he's receiving a lot of help and support from his wife as well, which is helping him write the new manga. So I don't know. Like, there was actually a perfect edition of Rurouni Kenshin that came out in Japan also and hasn't been translated into English. I doubt it's ever going to be translated into English also. I have some of the volumes. The artwork is gorgeous. Like, that's one thing about Nobuhiro Watsuki that I've always admired. Like, his artwork is just spectacular. It really is. It's um, artwork that's highly influential to me, especially early on when I started doing Warlord as a web comic. That really was a huge influence on me, that artwork. And some story elements, even till this day, is a huge inspiration as well to Warlord. And I kind of want to segue real quick into Warlord. Like, I've gone on for about almost half an hour now, rambling about manga and anime. If anyone has a favorite manga or anime ending that you want, or any manga, anime, comic you want to suggest, you can feel free to do so in the comments. So yeah, segueing into Warlord. Um, I hope I don't cause that many people to be angry. Like, I'm glad that Warlord, in a way, I'm glad that Warlord is kind of like this very niche, not very big thing at all. Because I don't know if I would like to have that pressure of so many people just anticipating how the story is going to end. Like, it was enough with chapter 11 of Warlord. Like, if I'm not gonna spoil it if you haven't read it, that was the ending to book one of Warlord, which pretty much introduces the majority of the main characters, and the majority of the plot points of the story is introduced in those 11 chapters. And a big event happens in that finale of book one that got a few people mad at me. Like, I remember a friend of mine, when he read the ending, he, up to that point, he was actually really enjoying the comic and the web comic and the scripts, because he would read the scripts before it would come online. And when he read that ending, he was like, I am never going to read anything you write again, you sick bastard. I was like, that's probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever received as a writer. Really, like, because it shows like a lot of passion and a lot of investment in the characters and the story to get to that point. So I didn't take it personally or anything like that. A lot of people were kind of shocked at chapter 11. Some people saw it coming, a whole lot of people didn't. It was kind of a mixed reaction kind of thing too, and it was a relatively dark chapter. It was a very dark chapter actually, with a relatively hopeful ending. Those last couple of pages, and overall, that's kind of what I want to do with Warlord. You know, just kind of have a relatively hopeful kind of story. Kind of like Isayama, I actually already know how the story is going to end for Warlord. I pretty much from the first time I sat down and started writing the comic. If you see me fidgeting a little bit now, the past few days I kind of injured my back somehow, so that's why I haven't been updating much stuff lately. Because I've been kind of recovering from that as well. Though today is the best that my back has felt in a few days. But yeah, it's been kind of painful. And I have a pretty high threshold of pain. So when I say it's painful, it's to the level where I could barely move around. But I'm better now anyway. But yeah, going back to Warlord. Without spoiling too much, like, that's kind of been kind of like the central theme to everything, kind of like hope. Like, the story gets very, very dark and goes to very dark places a lot of the times, and it kind of has a somewhat hopeful resolution to it. Sometimes it's not like an outright happy ending or happy resolution, but it's always something that makes the characters personally grow a little more. And that's kind of what I want to do with this series, just show the growth of these characters and how they mature throughout the series, and all the decisions that they make, all the moves that they make, all the characters that come and goes throughout the series. I just want it to be kind of like a reflection of how life itself can sometimes go to very dark places, but there's always usually that one thing that kind of pulls you back from that darkness and kind of gives you that hope that there is some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. That's kind of what I want to move forward in the comic. And sometimes it works, sometimes it falls a little flat, not gonna lie. But that's pretty much the central thing. And it's funny because a lot of people actually compared it to Invincible back in the day. The two series kind of started off. around the same time, actually. Or at least I started updating Warlord as a webcomic around the same time Invincible started coming out, being published in at Image. And I had never read Invincible. I only started watching the show that came out on Amazon. It's very good, by the way. And yeah, I can kind of see why some people kind of thought that I was also inspired by Invincible, or that the comic would eventually take more of a turn like an Invincible as well. It's not really, just to get that out of the way, like it's not really going to turn into Invincible, but there are a lot of themes that are very similar, like themes of family and friendship and what it takes to be a hero, and to what extreme some heroes will go to kind of, blur that gray area of what's acceptable in terms of what to do and how far you can go and stuff like that. I don't want to give too much away in my own comic, but that's pretty much the gist of it. What I want to accomplish with Warlord is hopefully people, of course, would be entertained by the story first and foremost, and to evoke, an emotional response from it. Whether it be people that hated it, like my friend, people that loved it, or people that were kind of like in the middle. As long as people react to it, that's a good barometer of how well you're doing as a creator. Because if you don't get no reaction at all, then I would be a little bit worried if I didn't get any reaction at all, especially like heading into its 15th year in August. It's crazy that it's going to be 15 years now that I've been publishing Warlord online. It should have ended years ago, to be honest, but as I've mentioned before, a lot of health issues, a lot of personal issues got in the way of that. But hopefully, I'll be able to rectify that. Like the latest thing was that I got very sick a couple of months ago. I'm still kind of recovering in some aspects from it as well, even now still. So hopefully I'll be able to be updating again soon. Hopefully as soon as next week. I want to start updating the webcomic again, and also show the progress of the Truthful Comics edition, the remake of those earlier chapters. Yeah, right now I'm in the middle of working on the prologue of book one, and I can't wait to show you guys how it's coming out. I think it's definitely coming out a lot better than it was when it originally came out. Hopefully, you'll be able to enjoy it. It's going to have much clearer art. It's going to have a lot better the lettering as well. Like the lettering is something that I always felt displeased about when I made the prologue. But now that I know a lot better how to do it, now that there's more advances in the software, I believe I've been doing a lot better job in terms of the lettering for the comic as well. So I hope you all look forward to that. I am going to do a sneak peek soon at the Truthful Comics website and the blog. So I'm going to update some pages there, yes, so you guys can see how it's coming along. I'm going to post some stuff on the Patreon as well. My voice is starting to get a little raspy. I think that's a sign that I've been talking a little too much. So let me just end with a couple of announcements. Hopefully, Warlord will be coming back next week. Nevermind Season 2, Truthful Comics Edition, hopefully is going to start this Sunday. Last week was actually the 1 year anniversary of having started the Season 1. And I'm really grateful to everyone that has read the webcomic on Facebook, everyone that's read it on Truthful Comics, everyone that's read it on the Duck Web Comics, and to everyone that has bought the physical copy and the digital copy. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Season 2 of Nevermind Truthful Comics Edition is going to start this Sunday with the chapter cover. Uh, I was going to wait until the Cannon Girl Season 1 Truthful Comics Edition ended, but everything got set back so much. First, last year with the pandemic and all the things that happened in the name of justice that happened over the summer that really set back a lot of things. And just when I was starting to get back on track this year, I went ahead and got sick to the point where I had to go to the hospital, you know, and that set things back even more. So I don't want things to just accumulate. So the Cannon Girl Season 1 Truthful Comics Edition and Nevermind Season 2 Truthful Comics Edition is going to be running simultaneously, as well as Wepamani Wepito Season 1 Truthful Comics Edition, as well as Warlord. That means that I might have to sacrifice the updating schedule either for Warlord or for the other comics that I had just started to get back on track with, meaning DTF6, Alfred Gomez's Clown Rogue Assassin, and Exorcist. One of those comics or some of those web comics will have to go on hiatus again until I finish some of these projects at least, because it got to a point where it's a little too much for me to handle right now, and I'm doing all these web comics by myself: the writing, the artwork, the lettering, the coloring, where it applies, and it's just a little too much to handle right now. I was able to handle it at the beginning of the year because I had enough buffer pages and I had planned everything out nicely, and it wasn't as many projects at the same time. But after I got sick and other things happened, like, there was a big setback, and I do apologize for that. I do want to own up to that responsibility and take up to that accountability that I wasn't able to do a lot of those things on time. But hopefully, I'll be able to catch up the rest of the year. I was able to at least publish Nevermind Season 1 Truthful Comics Edition as a print version as well, and the surprise release of Stupid the Cat, a TC edition as well in printed form. I did come to the decision that I'm going to do a Season 2 because quite a few people has been invested in the comic of Stupid the Cat, and some people have gone back to read it on Drunk Duck and on the Truthful Comic website. I am going to make its dedicated Facebook page as well, like I did for the other web comics, the web strips. So I hope you all look forward to that. I'm going to start uploading with the original strips, and then I'm going to do a Season 2 with brand new material. So that's going to be exciting. And yeah, I think that's pretty much good. I'm almost at the 45-minute mark, so enough of the plugging myself for now. Um, Maybe later today or later in the week, I'll do another live stream to talk about other things, like maybe show some stuff from Manuel Carmona's Project New Wave. I've been seeing a few pages that have been finished, and whew, issue number 3 of Project New Wave is going to be something else. I'm really looking forward to that. And no, I'm not being biased, and I'm not being, like, yeah, he's my studio mate, I have to give him support. No, I legit talking like from a fan point of view. I really can't wait to see issue number 3 finished. Maybe when I learn to do screen sharing on this software, I'll probably show a page or two. That would be cool. Um, I also want to do a live stream eventually talking about Jose Cruz and his Silver Island Studios, similar to the live stream I did last week of Truthful Comics and the comics that were published by Truthful so far. I would kind of like to do a video of the comics I've done so far with Silver Island Studios. That would be kind of interesting to do and very nostalgic for me as well. So hopefully look forward to that. To everyone that are viewing now, thank you so much for viewing. I'll catch you later. If you're watching on YouTube or eventually watch on YouTube, you know, the obligatory subscribe, smash the like button, ring the bell, you know, the drill. I'm the biggest channel on well, not Facebook, maybe Facebook eventually, but my channel is the biggest channel on YouTube. Change my mind. Spoiler, you won't. I'm looking to get 1 million subscribers by August. Right now, I'm sitting at 73. It is definitely doable. Once I get to 1 million subscribers on YouTube by August, I'll do a face reveal. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Catch you later. By later, I mean hopefully I'm gonna keep thinking about this in the evening and probably just have a drink in Mikasa's name or something. See you later.